Hello there, my name is Melody and this is part 2 of my wow moments. There's sort of 4 separate, I suppose, incidences, for want of a better word, that are all linked to one spirit. So I wanted to kind of put them all in there together, okay? So when I was 19, my ex-boyfriend's best friend died in a tragic accident, and they lived in a different part of the country to where we lived. So the first incident that happened was when we went to go and visit the family of this person. We stayed over the night and I was downstairs talking to one of the siblings and we were watching a movie, and we're both, where they had the TV was in front, so we're both sat like on sofas just looking forward. And as we were talking, I just suddenly had this extremely strong urge that I cannot explain, that I needed to turn my head and look over at him. So as I'm kind of slowly turning my head like that, he starts turning his head to look at me like that, and his whole face started to glow, but it was as if there was a lamp on the inside of his body or his face, so it was glowing outwards like that. So you know those moments when it feels like you're doing something for a while but it's really just seconds? It felt like this was going on for quite a while, and the more that I was watching, the more in awe I was, the more prominent the features and everything began to appear. And what I saw was the dead brother's face appear on top of the brother that was still alive. Very, very clearly, very, very prominent. So I then at some point just went and spoke out loud and said, "Oh my God." And as soon as I spoke, the image just completely disappeared. So he then turned around and he said, "Everything all right?" And I was like, yeah, thinking, how the hell am I meant to explain this? And then he then turned around and said, "You just saw my brother, didn't you?" And I was sort of must have pulled a face. And he said, "Oh, the same thing actually happened a couple of weeks ago." And then said that he was with his wife, they were talking, and she turned around to look at him. And as she turned around to look at him, she then says she saw the same, described the same way, face started to glow, and that the brother appeared on the face. A short while after, we moved up to this area, and my boyfriend at the time was still living where we used to live and was kind of commuting and stuff. So I spent time on my own up there. And as soon as we moved into the property, I started to get this horrendous headache, non-stop, unrelenting. And it literally felt like my head had just been banged repeatedly against the wall. And this went on for a couple of months. I went to doctors, I had my eyes checked, I had scans done. They ruled out everything was fine, they couldn't find anything to worry about, my eyes were absolutely fine, tried different medications, it wouldn't clear or get rid of this pain. And I happened to phone up the psychic medium that I mentioned in my first video, not to talk to her about this, but just because I used to speak to her a lot. And so she then said, "Are we going to talk about these symptoms that you're getting?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, about these headaches and stuff like that. So by the time I was talking to her, it started to get to the point where I could almost feel like there was a wet sensation in my ears, but if I touched it, I couldn't feel anything. And it was just unbelievable pain. And so she then said to me that what I was experiencing was the symptoms of this person when they passed away. And the reason why they were so strong is because he hadn't actually gone into the light. So she told me what to do. I had to do this particular meditation. I sent him on his way. Doesn't mean that he disappeared or anything like that. It just meant it enabled him basically to cross the bridge into the other dimension, world. And then those symptoms kind of stopped overnight. And then the orbs started. The orbs were pretty special. So the house itself, I need to try and give a bit of detail about it so you can sort of understand where I was going with this one. So we lived in a terrace house. There was a window in the living room. So if you sat facing the TV, you've got the window on your right hand side. And quite a few times I'd be sitting there watching TV and I would see a light out the corner of my eyes. And then when I kind of would look, there wouldn't be anything there. So I started thinking it was just a car driving by and it was like the reflection of the headlights kind of going through the window or something like that. Then about maybe 2 weeks later, I was in my bedroom. So this time the window is on my left-hand side. I was reading. And again, at the corner of my right eye, I saw something. And when I looked, I couldn't really see anything. And I kept getting this light was the only way I could kind of describe it. But it was so quick that by the time you do this, you can't see anything. But because there was a window on the left, I was then still thinking the same thing. I was just, must be just a car driving by. It's just that reflection. However, it kind of kept happening, irrespective of if I was downstairs, upstairs or whatever. And it was enough for me to start questioning, well, as soon as I was picking up on the pain, is there actually something else kind of going on? So then this one night, I was on my own in the house and I went across to the bathroom. Now, the bathroom had no windows. There was no windows. There was a hallway with no windows. So the only light would come from the spare bedroom, but the door was shut, and my bedroom. And then you go into the like the bathroom separately. So even if you're in the bathroom, you wouldn't see any light from any windows. So I walked down the hallway, went into the bathroom, left all the bloody lights off because I'm on my own and I give a shit. And as I'm sat there like having a wee, on the wall on my right hand side, this gigantic light just kind of went. And I think at that point it was then like, okay, now you've got my fucking attention. What the fuck is going on? And so this is when the orbs basically started, and I've been seeing them ever since then, and I was 19 at the time. So I spoke to this psychic medium on another occasion, and she always picked up everything that was kind of going on with me anyway. And she said then about these lights that you've been seeing. So I said, yeah, I don't actually understand what they are. And she said, well, they're actually orbs. That's what they are. They're spiritual orbs. She said, you are picking up basically the energy of, for want of a better word, different entities, different spirits, different elementals, you know, whatever. You're kind of picking up on this energy, and it's as if your brain is like scanning it like a radar, and then you're placing wherever these orbs are is where this energy is. The fourth thing that happened then with this particular spirit was I was in the kitchen, and again, the kitchen, because it was this weird sort of terrace house, there was a door that led, like, you go through it and then the stairs would go up like that, and then there was a door that would lead into the living room, and in between these two doors was just like this little table. I was sat there doing something, I was just having a fag or whatever, I really don't know. And I felt, and I saw out the corner of my eye, somebody walk past me on my right hand side. I felt something go behind me, and then the door opened up. And as I kind of started to look up, I see what I believe to be my boyfriend, because he had full clothes on. It was a completely solid figure. It wasn't, you know, anything like woo, anything like that. And then I heard the do, 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 do of the going up the stairs. And I shouted up to my boyfriend if he could grab something for me from my bedroom. And then he shouts to me from the living room, basically, what the fuck you want about? I'm not upstairs. But I saw him, or led to believe that I saw him, very clearly walk by me. And obviously I then found out that it was still this friend, you know. So there's been a lot of those kinds of things with that. Fast forward, I need to just add this one in. Fast forward to many, many years later, I ended up having a reading with a psychic, and she was saying to me who I've got there, what side they're stood on, who they are, blah, blah, blah. And she said about that there was a man that had come forward. He wasn't really giving her a great amount of detail because there wasn't much of a connection. But bear in mind, I never met this person when he was alive. And she said that he was about sort of 32 age, thereabouts, and that he died in an accident. So I said, I think I can take it. Does he have a message? And she just went, he wants to say thank you for sending him into the light. And I was just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? There was, at that point, only 2 people that knew that I had sent him into the light. I'd never told anybody. So that was just a gigantic amount of wow moments, but all linked to that one spirit. So that's what I mean. It's quite long. I just wanted to share all of that with you, okay? So keep a lookout, because part 3 will be coming up quite soon. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day. Bye.